This is Climate Action Committee, Tuesday, November 7th.
Where's
I
today?
click remotely. And
Or maybe we'll be at two places at once.
and we want to mute. Okay, just in case I want to share a screen, which I will do in the morning. In fact, I'll share it anyway. With the other. No, not that. With that thing here, share that. And on the window, oh God, I hate that. It's hiding that sugar. The window is the that thing here. Okay, so there's the actual agenda. Well, God
We
darn
can
it.
close this meeting is being.
I had the agenda all up.
It's going to be one of the blue squares.
What?
The blue square, was it Google Doc?
You can't even read it.
One of like the blue squares, like the Google Docs.
Oh, the blue square here.
Up in the top, you like the tabs. If you've already had it up.
Okay. So I guess this is the agenda here. I just have to download it, but I thought I had it on. Okay, welcome everybody. Could you get rid of the little square on the? I don't know if that matters. Whatever. Just the fact that it's,
This meeting is being.
now it's more like the meeting being recorded.
I think you have.
Maybe that doesn't show up on this.
Just hit the context and it will appear.
Okay, anyway, let's get past this part. Welcome to the Climate Action Committee meeting. Thank you for being either here or attending like Zoom. But I'm gonna have everybody shown. Welcome to our guests who are, well, our visitors, which is, is someone taking minutes tonight? Can someone,
No,
Janet, would you be willing to take notes?
If I'm for. I don't think anybody likes doing that, but
I can do it, I haven't done it in a while.
Okay.
A while since I was.
Okay.
Okay,
Fantastic,
all right, thank you.
Thank you
Thank
for-
you, Courtney.
minutes. So our visitors here are Grace Rogans and,
Kate DeBlanc. Kate DeBlanc.
okay. Nice to have you here. And there's a couple of visitors out on Zoom land. Let's see, comments and announcements. I'm gonna make some comments in a minute, but does anybody have announcements about, including you guys out there, about what's happening at the high school or something, or in Sunrise, or what the people in the committee should know about?
We're starting on number 6 plastic drive since you can't recycle it. We're starting a number 6 plastic drive since you can't recycle it, and we're gonna do a craft with the kids at the library because you can make little shrinky dinks out of it. So, yeah, we're gonna repurpose it.
Good to hear it. Okay. First order of business is to get to minutes. And we didn't do the minutes from September at the last meeting. But I have had a chance to review them today. And I was wondering if anybody else had. So these are the September minutes that were written by Garen, that I think these came from Gavin. Just was wondering if we can approve these.
I had a couple things, that I caught, other than that, nothing, but, under, I don't know what section we're in. yeah, I can't really tell. 5, I guess, discussion about grant funding at the very end,
Okay,
rather than MVP, it's at the NV, V is in Valley. MVP rather than, so it's the top of page 3,
okay.
there's 2.
Oh, yes,
2
MVP, absolutely.
sentences, and then there's one, FEMA that is missing an E,
Okay,
other than that, I didn't see.
okay, cool, that's great. Now, Gavin sent them as a PDF, so we couldn't really mark it up
Okay,
as easily,
yeah,
but we can get them fixed. Cheryl,
There's also, it says here, Cheryl, I believe may have been someone else, so it was me.
there's,
Under, is this, page, the next page, maybe, no, second to last page. It was asking somebody to go to the, I think this is what they're talking about, going to the Concord MBTA planning community thing in West Concord. I think that's
okay,
what he's talking about there. I'm not sure.
okay, so those are, minor. If you can figure what that is, we can get those changes in and approve minutes with those minor changes. So, cause I think it captures the meeting pretty well, good to fix the errors. Can I have a motion to approve those?
I wasn't there in September, so.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay,
Second.
okay. Everybody in, were there any comments from members that were offsite? Okay, we'll vote to approve. All in favor of approving the minutes? Which is, 3 of us here, 4 out there. I'm not sure, is Mike, is not on my screen. Mike, are you voting to approve?
He's muted.
Yes, I approve.
That's 6 of us. And minutes are so approved. Then there was minutes from last month's meeting. Thank you, Karen, for getting them out.
Sorry, they
And
were so late.
it's okay. I think it's less work if you get them out the next day. The memory is the problem. I read through them and they captured the meeting well. I didn't have any changes to make. Did everybody have a chance to look quickly at them?
I looked at them and it looked good to me.
Okay,
Move that we approve. the minutes of September.
okay. Is that a motion to approve?
Yes. So moved.
Second? I'll second it.
Oh,
Need be.
you can do that.
Am I allowed to do that? Maybe I'm not allowed to. All in favor of approving the October minutes?
I,
Aye.
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 Right.
Now I should say that I'm behind in posting minutes, and I'd forgotten about that as a requirement for the job. But I have gotten, I realized it this afternoon when I looked and I saw that the minutes were not up on the town website since May. And so I want to get them, all the ones that have been for the, I think there's 4 missing meetings or something. I'll get them to the town clerk, in the next day or 2. So I can make a quick update of comments, and I'm sharing them on the screen. One is that there's an upcoming community forum on climate impacts of the private jet expansion. And I just heard about it today. It's on the 6th of December at the library, 6 to 8 p.m. And I suggested they had thought they would get somebody from the select board to participate on the panel. but I suggested that they could have somebody from this committee on the panel. Instead, and I would be willing to do it, or would be willing to, look at, have anybody else that wanted to do it. I just find, we should be, in terms of, if they're talking about climate impacts of stuff, we should have an opinion about it and be willing to speak to that. And I'll ask,
Brad, when is that meeting?
that's on the 6th of December. So it's, actually, when is our next meeting? December 5th. Our next meeting is on the 5th. So, it's on the 6th of December. Right after that, and we could even have a run through of a 10-minute presentation at that, next meeting if we wanted to. If anybody on the committee would like to do that, I would certainly, help them get material together on, for a presentation.
Did you say the select board is going to be there, Brad, or are we going in their place? I didn't catch that.
Well, there's members of the select board that will certainly be there.
Yeah.
But and they should be taking note and deciding whether or not, whether to change their recommendation based on what they hear there. I just think in terms of climate impacts, that we should be able to speak to that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
You know,
I mean, I'm willing to dip my toe in the water on that if somewhere
Fantastic.
between, yeah. I think I just fully submerged.
Good, and I'm happy to talk to you about it. I kind of know what the arguments are and stuff, but that would be really great, Mike.
Yeah, and I've been involved
Yeah,
too, so.
Janet is heavily involved in this.
do you know if the town's the lawyer that the town hired is gonna be there? I mean, are we gonna hear the legal aspects of it? Do you know?
I don't know. Very good question. I will relay
We'll
that.
talk to that a little bit.
Oh, Mark will.
Yeah. So the request from the organizers was to try to follow the template that Lexington used for a similar forum. And they were, the event was actually sponsored by the select board. So Paula Rose came in and talked to us about whether or not we would sponsor this event as well. And so the question was what was involved in sponsoring it. We, of course, have already written and sent a letter to the governor, along with the other Hanscom area town select board communities, opposing the expansions of jet hangar capacity at Hanscom. However, this is supposed to be making sure that people really understand what some of those impacts are. And so we're still looking at that. I have not heard the idea of having, we have hired and retained an attorney to begin doing a public records request to help inform us as to what might have gone on that kind of brought the project to this point. I don't think that that attorney would necessarily be at something like this. That's kind of outside the scope of what they're doing for us at the moment. But it's an interesting idea. I think this is more informational and save our heritage, stop private jet expansion, and some of those other groups are really in the lead on this particular forum.
Mark, is that letter going to Massport or going to the governor?
We already sent the letter to the governor.
Okay.
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Mark.
Sure.
Now, I think we were asked whether we would sponsor the event as a committee, at least. I don't know, again, I don't know really what that means. But I think it mean, we are in favor of it. And could participate at it. So, if, if the committee felt that this is an issue that, is in our lane. I certainly would like us to, vote on that.
Right.
Anybody think that there's,
And I just wanted to say that I know that, Save Our Heritage, Paula Rose has rounded up Mike Barrett, Chuck Collins, who has written a report on where the flights are going, etc. I told you earlier today,
yeah,
trying to think who else. It was going to be moderated by Diane Proctor. Neil Rasmussen will be speaking. So I'm not sure how much involvement we could have beyond getting up and saying we support this.
well, the question is whether one of us would be in the panel.
And
And that's what I suggested.
Is that what comes with this sponsoring the event,
Well,
do you think?
I don't know. I mean, the event will happen whether or not we sponsor it. But
Exactly.
we should, invite people to go and find out about it, so co-promote. So this would,
We should, I don't know,
yeah,
I don't know.
So I propose that we do that. And at least, lend our committee's name to it, to the extent that they want to use it, to, promote the event. Do we need a vote on that?
I think so.
Probably do,
I think so.
yeah,
I propose that we sponsor, support the Paula Rose event on December the 6th at the library.
okay,
It's not very precise, but
right, it's precise enough.
Happy to second it. It'd be interesting to see what sort of input, if we could ask ahead of time, what support we could provide them if they were missing information that we might provide. We may not need, because I have no information. But I mean, just in general, I mean, everybody here seems to have a good handle on sort of what the output is and CO2 and, sort of have that conversation. I mean, it'd be interesting to know if they thought they were missing any information. That's all. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, they've been working on it for a while. What they, I think what we can provide is a cross check on the assumptions they're making. Because it's, there's activists behind it, which is a fine thing. And they have done some analysis on greenhouse gases. We should be able to look that over and, be able to comment on.
The piece in the newspaper was very interesting.
Yeah,
The local, the flight numbers and where they were going and how long they were in the air. That was pretty interesting.
right. That takes a lot of work to get that.
Yeah.
So, we have a motion and a second. How, if everybody's in favor of being involved, sponsoring, supporting the event, say aye. Aye.
Right.
Okay, that would be everybody. Now, the other thing I found out about today, and I sent it to Eric, is a page from, on Mass CEC, Clean Energy Center, about a neighborhood electrification RFI. RFI being a request for information. And, what it says, it's on the screen, this RFI seeks to gauge interest and get input to the potential for Mass CEC to support neighborhood electrification demonstration projects. And for the purposes of this RFI, neighborhood electrification is strategic electrification of building stock and decommissioning of natural gas system in defined geographic areas, such as street segments, neighborhoods, or zone. Now,
Could you do me a favor and send me that text?
sure,
On the minutes, thank you.
absolutely. The proposal I'm thinking of for next year is actually about, is maybe more focused on neighborhoods that don't have gas going to them. Which I think is an important part of, electrification, is focusing on places where the gas lines never got to. I don't know if that falls within their scope. All this RFI asks for is for input on what a useful program fund Mass DEC could be. And presumably they'd scare up the funding to then run such a program. Eric, did you have a chance to look at that form?
I did look at the form. There's, I think there was about maybe 15 to 20 fields in there,
Yeah.
just listing different areas of interest. So I mean, I looked at it maybe for a minute or two, just kind of quickly scanned it to see
That's
what's
about
there.
as far as I've been too.
Yeah, so I haven't looked at it in any depth, but I think it's an interesting concept that, you know, sounds like it would dovetail well with the
Could,
engagement campaign.
right. I mean, the other thing it sounds like is something along the lines of, we turn the gas line into a geothermal line, you know, the kind of network geothermal,
Yeah.
or some project like that that other people are involved in. We don't have that here, though we could. It's just, that's a big thing. Because you know, decommissioning gas lines is pretty serious business.
Yeah, I'm wondering if Mike is aware of this or has heard about this or has any thoughts on it, you know, given his.
I don't know.
Yeah, I
Mike,
do. Yeah, so, am I on mute? Hold on one sec. No, I'm not.
No,
Okay.
we can hear you.
Yeah, so the targeted electrification is one of the 4 pillars of the low-lying fruit, if you will, of attaining the 2050 decarbonization goals for Massachusetts. And Brad, I think you're probably going to have a gas network there, because the whole principle behind it is, rather than investing in an old gas network, that money would be better spent toward electrifying a neighborhood. So it targets a specific area based on the fact that that area would be targeted anyway, because the gas line is in need of some repair and some expenditures. And so the DPU and the DOER are saying, okay, well, let's make this so, you know, the first shot across the bow for decarbonization, rather than going in and upgrading these gas lines. Let's not put the money in there. Let's electrify that particular area of the network instead. And you're right, it's big, and it's got some challenges, because it's very hard to take away people's gas. The boiler's not going to be there. Won't be able to use their gas stoves. I mean, you just go right down a list and start thinking about how reliant you are on gas, and then the reality of that, you know, starts coming home. So, so Brad, I think it is more focused around having that coupling with an existing gas network that is in need of repair, and I also think that because the typical air source heat pumps may not be able to address those peak cold winter days, where a boiler may help with that, for even if it's, you know, 5 to 6 days out of the year, that boiler is not going to be there, and hence you need a more efficient heat pump, which would fall in the category of geothermal. So it probably would be more along those lines.
Yeah, okay. So I don't know if we should respond to the RFI or not, and we don't need to decide today. Because it's not due to the 15th, and it wouldn't commit us anything anyway.
Yeah, I don't think it's any kind of commitment per se. I think it was just. Yeah, there's soliciting information to inform their potential program, I think so. So I think if we felt like we did have something to contribute or say, I mean, we certainly could.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Um,
Janet, are you taking notes?
Janet, are you taking notes?
I'm trying.
Okay,
All right, well, you go for it. I'm gonna stop.
Oh, I thought I was going to.
Taking it, I know, I was.
You do a better job than me.
What's that?
I said, I'm sure you do a better job.
No,
than
I
me.
just, one of us should stop.
Yeah.
I will volunteer to stop anytime.
okay,
Hey, Brad, Eric,
You
and
finish?
yeah.
Yeah, I'd love you to.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Mike,
yeah, just to come to closure on that, that shouldn't necessarily preclude any interest in doing something like this. I'm not sure how the form reads. Concord, having committed to no gas connections and full electrification, is going down that path anyway. So it having a thoughtful discussion around that might still be worth it.
right.
So,
And from what you were just saying, it makes me think you would want to look at the list of major gas repairs needed, as well as the list of roads where maybe there's only a couple customers on that gas line. And, well, this is probably, that might be naive, but to think, oh, you could do something local and, solve a problem. But it's a bit of work to
Yes.
figure it out.
It is. I mean, if anything, it's a little window into the scope and magnitude of the next 30 years. This is the low-lying fruit, is going after those areas that need gas repair anyway. The next step is, those areas that don't need it, but the state is going to be asking towns and residences and commercial industrial customers to electrify anyway. So it's interesting because it's just a little window into the magnitude and scope of what's to come over the next 30 years. But shouldn't necessarily preclude any interest, or at least thoughtful discussion around whether it's something that we might want to do. I didn't mean to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah. Okay. Let's put it on the, let's be thinking about it and maybe we can chat at some point. Whether that's worth filling, whether that's worth submitting something. The other thing I think we have to submit in December is an annual report, or maybe that's January. I don't know. I can't remember the timing of that.
I think it's January.
You think it's January? Okay, so let's not worry about it. Just yet. So Eric, we're getting a little bit behind. Do you have any updates for us? You said a report.
Yeah, I mean, I had attached a written update to the agenda, so hopefully people can look through that if they want to see some of the things I've been up to most recently. Two quick things I'll mention to highlight is that looks like on December 5th, we're going to have a Concord Water Resources public forum with Public Works is along with me, is going to be hosting a forum at the Harvey Wheeler Center to inform the public about the current state of water resources and issues for drinking water, stormwater, wastewater here in Concord. What the current state is, what the challenges are, and what Concord and Public Works is trying to do to address that in terms of providing service and capital planning and a number of other things.
That's in the evening.
It is in the evening. It's going to be 7 to 9 PM.
That's
So,
the same night that we meet.
yeah, it is,
Okay.
which is unfortunate. I was told that they wanted the meeting to happen that first week of December. We're trying to avoid doing it on the sixth for the Hanscom, and there's another housing development meeting on the sixth. And then the fourth is the select board meeting on that Monday. Thursday Hanukkah starts, so there's the fifth is basically what was available. Yeah, so that would be a conflict for me with our next meeting here. But we're really hoping just to be able to reach out to the public, better inform the public on a lot of what's happening there, including the efforts to hopefully develop a stormwater utility for Concord, which will be part of that discussion as well. So Public Works will be speaking and giving some context, and then some of the consultants, such as Kleinfelder, Courtney, who've been working on the integrated water resources plan, and then Weston and Sampson, who's working on the stormwater utility. They'll be there and sharing some updates and answering questions about that as well. So I just,
The question is whether we should move our meeting. You know. So we have Thanksgiving coming up, of course. That's December. This is November. So Thanksgiving is the second to last week of November. We could push up the meeting if we wanted to and meet a week earlier. And that would be on the if it was Tuesday again, I kind of like that we settled on a day. It would be like the 28th of November. Is there anybody that knows they couldn't make that?
Not from being my birthday, that's fine.
Then
A good way of celebrating.
Out of town.
we're gonna bring cake.
Yeah, I could do that.
Karen, did you say something?
I'll be out of town
Okay. Mike, you do
and
that?
for the December date, so.
Okay. So let's, I'll ping the other members, but let's assume that we meet a week before, because I actually think we shouldn't conflict with that stormwater thing. That's it.
yeah, I mean, obviously, and one of the reasons I'm involved in that is that, a number of those efforts directly relate to the climate action plan.
Yeah.
Specifically listed in there, so obviously those efforts are supporting the efforts of the plan.
So can you check on the availability of room, and if it's this room is
Sure.
not available, we can maybe
Yeah.
get a different room,
Sure.
for the 28th.
Yeah, and then the only other thing I was gonna specifically mention, which I don't necessarily think is included in my update, is that there have been a lot of questions circulating about the proposed 40B projects, and what do those mean in terms of
Right.
sustainability, climate, energy efficiency, and what leverage does the town have to encourage developers to build sustainably and build green
Yeah.
and not use fossil fuels? So we've been trying to do a little bit of
Now, does everybody know what a 40B project is? Do you know what a 40B project is? It's an acronym for an affordable housing project that someone's proposed to build in the town to increase the fraction of homes that regular people can afford.
But it's not just affordable homes,
No.
there've got to be a certain proportion of
Okay.
Right,
affordable homes, but it's basically, because there aren't enough affordable homes in Concord according to the state law. The people, builders can come in and propose something that doesn't fit with the zoning requirements.
Right.
If a certain percentage of the housing
Right.
is affordable.
You have to, I don't know what percentage of.
It's
affordable
not high, but it's, I don't know percentages, but yeah, so that they have, right.
It needs to be at least 10% by
Is it
some
10%?
standard. And they've, besides the one on Baker Avenue, which we've heard about, some, there's one that proposed on. Is it Forest Ridge Road right by, the Thoreau Club and
Yeah.
end of town?
Yeah,
Uh,
I actually went to the
Oh, you
site
did?
visit, yes. It's actually proposed on the site of where the summer camp is.
Okay,
So they said, oh, we can move that somewhere else, but I don't know the terrain well enough to know whether there's another suitable site. They did not, I asked them if they were planning to do an all-electric building. And they said, oh, I haven't thought about that. Well. It's three big buildings, three-story buildings. It's, I can't remember how many, do you remember how many?
I don't remember the exact numbers, 200 and some, 216 units,
Yeah.
yeah, and then 300 and some proposed parking spaces.
There's almost
Okay.
400 parking
Yeah.
pretty
spaces.
big.
Yeah, so it's sizable, so the gist of my comments are that, I've been getting questions from a number of places about, what if any leverage does Concord have in terms of encouraging developers or can't really require, but to build green and sustainable when they're doing this type of development. So the Novo Riverside project, those developers came in and from the very start, they were championing the fact that they are going to be fossil fuel free, very green building design across the board, which is terrific and wonderful. But as you just heard from Janet, these other proposal developers, don't seem to have given much thought to it at this point in terms of that. So the short answer is the leverage that we have are essentially our building codes. So these projects don't have any automatic exemptions from our building codes, our local building codes.
Yeah.
They can appeal those to the zoning board of appeals.
Yeah,
But we're really relying on our building code. So the specialized stretch code that we adopted at town meeting this past spring will be in effect on January 1st. So presumably that will capture any of these 40B projects if they do move forward. The issue with the specialized stretch code is that still allows a fossil fuel pathway
right,
for developers. I mean, they have to have higher building efficiencies and include solar and some things like that, but they can still take a fossil fuel pathway. There are electric pathways that hopefully they would prefer to do, but we can't force them to do one over the other. And then people are also asking about the fossil fuel free demonstration project that we're hopefully going to be a part of if our application gets approved by the state, which prohibits fossil fuels. But if you remember, our bylaw has a specific exemption in there for affordable housing. So that would not apply as it's written now to affordable housing. My understanding is it would sort of be a blanket exemption because the language in the bylaw is fairly general. It doesn't specify any particular level or percentage or amount that it would apply to or not apply to. It just simply says affordable housing is not included in that. So that's kind of where we are with that right now in terms of building codes and what that might mean. I just wanted to mention that because I've been getting a lot of questions and I just want to share that in case other people were getting questions. So they kind of had a sense of what was going on with that at the moment. So, I think a large part of the reasoning of why the affordable housing was exempted in our bylaw at the time was because there's the argument that, if you were building green and building sustainable, that there could be additional costs associated with that. We didn't want to make building affordable housing any more difficult in terms of costs or anything like that. I think that argument has less teeth in it now than it probably did at the time, based on a lot of data and studies that are floating around for new construction of affordable housing. So, one option is that, we being the town or whomever can amend that bylaw. Having said that, our application is still under review with the state for this demo program. So I'm not sure how that might play out if before we even have approval that we're potentially trying to move to make changes to the bylaw that they're
Yeah.
basing it, you know, the application process on, but anyway.
Do you know when that approval process will be done?
I don't, I need to find out from DOER, when that is. I know they're in the middle of the review right now, but I don't have a
Okay,
sense of
good.
that, but I'll try to find out if they have a sense of the timing. Having said that, we'll probably want to ask carefully, because I don't think we want to ask in the context of 40B, because one of the requirements of that application is that we
Right,
are above the 10% level, and we were at the date that they suggested back in 2020, which was the cutoff. So we're in there, but I don't know if we want to be opening,
right,
unnecessarily opening any cans of worms in the middle of the application review.
okay,
But you can still find out regardless. It just
Okay.
wouldn't be in that context.
Would it be worth just tweaking the bylaw to make sure that something like this doesn't apply to the entire development as opposed to the percentage that is affordable?
Well, I think that's.
I think we
I
can
think
look at
that's-
that
I
next
think-
year.
Yeah, I think that's up for discussion for,
Yeah,
whoever
minimum, I
might
think
want
that
to
would be-
consider
Yeah.
putting that forward. So
Okay.
anyway, I'll stop there because I know we've got time, but those were just the two things that I wanted to mention. And then if you wanted me to just real quickly run through the grant opportunities, update on the grant opportunities as part of that. So just a few notes on grant opportunities that are on the radar. One is the EPA electric school buses. They have another round of rebate opportunities. The deadline is the end of January. So I'm started conversations with the schools, with the leadership over at the schools, to try to hopefully make sure that they're on board with wanting to pursue this, because we'll need their buy-in, we'll need school committee buy-in. It's a rebate program, so basically the town would have to put up the money to purchase the buses and then get rebates beyond that. So there's financial considerations and all this, and it's also a lottery system, so there's no guarantee that we would be selected randomly out of a lottery, but there's that opportunity. The town pursued that before last in this summer to fall of 22. There was the first round of these rebate opportunities, so we're looking into pursuing that again. Green communities should have funding opportunity available in March, so we'll be looking at that as a possibility for pursuing some funding to do some upgrades to some buildings, hopefully potentially a school building, and if not, then maybe some other municipal building. MVP action grants, there's a expression of interest are due December 15th. So that's something we may look at in terms of our interest in climate vulnerability assessment, and whether there's potential for that to maybe dust off some previous work that's been done on that. So I'd like to catch up with you on that at some point, Paul. The EPA climate pollution reduction implementation grants, there's a notification of interests are due in February and proposals are due in April. I'm trying to pull together information on that. So basically the EPA, there was a large chunk of money for these climate pollution reduction grants. The first round were planning grants based on metropolitan statistical areas. So MAPC was awarded a grant to do the greater Boston and Southern New Hampshire statistical area to do a planning grant. So they're working right now on putting together a regional climate plan for that whole area, which is a requirement in order for entities, municipalities within those areas to then be eligible for the implementation grants, which will be coming up. So I'm keeping my eye on that and what the opportunities might be for that. I feel like there's going to be an emphasis on collaborations and regional things. So I'll have to look and see what falls under that.
So do you have a contact at MAPC who's working on that planning, grant?
Yeah, and I was
Yeah,
and actually I was invited to participate on a municipal advisory committee for the regional climate plan. So hopefully I'll sort of have an in terms of being aware of what's going on with that and how that relates to these implementation grants.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to hear about that.
This is a adaptation plan or mitigation of what? This climate plan?
Sounds like a mitigation plan.
Yeah, it's a little unclear at this point exactly what they proposed. I need to find out a little bit more about that. Basically they're being tasked to put that together by early spring. So it's gonna be a hustle for them,
Okay.
in that timeframe. And then just the last thing with grants is just continuing to, work internally to try to see if we can get the town, lined up to potentially take advantage of the IRS selective pay opportunities where, organizations like the town, who typically aren't tax-paying organizations, can be eligible for federal tax incentives, for energy efficiency projects like solar and battery storage and EV purchases and EV charging infrastructure and things like that. So that's taking some legwork, to try to see if we can pull that together, but we're trying to position ourselves to be ready for that. So I'll stop there.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, if you could you send just a summary with the links to be able to, follow up on what the MVP action grant is and the EPA
Sure.
thing, anything, just, it wasn't, I don't think in your report. You could be able to just look at that, at least know where to go to look.
Yeah.
I never remember.
The green communities one, you talked about building type retrofit, or I'm assuming it's related to that. Is that right?
Yes. Well, I mean, that's what we've done in the past, so
Okay.
that. The last one, the last Green Communities grant we had that I'm aware of was, the one to do the upgrades for heat pumps at the Ripley Administration Building, which unfortunately did not go through because of the unexpected electrical service costs that went along with that. Yeah, so I'm anticipating that we would be pursuing a similar pathway with doing, similar project at hopefully a school building.
Yeah.
Since they use a lot of the natural gas for the town.
Right.
So I'm trying to work with them now on seeing what we can do to position ourselves. for that.
Yeah. I mean, to me, I know we talked about this, but I don't know where things are at on this. We had a condition assessment and list of prioritized recommendations. You could just kind of tick off that list of, as that grant comes up, then
Yeah,
we have shovel-ready projects, if you will. I know we're not there yet.
so, yeah,
Eagles MVP grant due on the 5th, I think, of December.
There's a expression of interest are due on December 15th.
Okay. Is that to come through the select board or can it come from us or you or someone? Who's that? Who put that together?
That's a good question. I'm not sure I know the answer to that.
Okay.
I don't know if Mark knows.
Eric can do it. Eric can do it.
Okay, so this.
you wanna help them do that?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I sort of thought, I missed a month or so of this, but. We have to decide what we want to do though. Who makes a decision on, what we want to do, what we want to apply for?
Right,
Yeah.
and you would be the most, you and, Courtney and Eric would be the most knowledgeable about that, so
Okay,
I think,
so we can make a decision and make a recommendation to this committee.
yeah,
Yeah, I've done a couple of them, Paul, and I think, you don't have to have a super detailed scope. I think what John wrote would be sufficient. And it's a much smaller version of it, even of what he, of what, like, it doesn't have to be 6 pages, is what I'm saying. They ask you some kind of pointed questions, fill in the blank stuff, so I don't think it's too much of an.
Letter of interest, right?
Yeah, basically,
And-
it's just that and then usually they will, or what they've done in the past is they'll give you some feedback on that.
Okay.
So that you can then use that feedback when so it'd be a good time to see if there's appetite for it again, and they,
Within Concord or,
yeah.
so do we need to have that feedback before we can submit the letter of intent? A letter of
Well, I
interest?
don't know, I mean, I guess if we're talking like, do we need to have more support? I mean, I think you can do it with, as long as you get the knowledge from Mark, but I in the select board, I don't think we got that. Maybe am I wrong there?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's. Yeah, this is kind of a discussion that we need to revisit about the climate vulnerability assessment basically it comes down to this is. We garnered a good bit of support from a lot of other committees and boards. I think there's sort of implicit support from the select board by the fact that this committee exists and is charged with
Right.
advancing the climate action plan, and this is an important part of that. So I think the decision now is trying to figure out, what our first step should be
Right.
towards advancing that assessment. I mean, we can't do it all at once, so, there's been talk about hydrologic study. So maybe that's the focus. I did find a prior expression of interest document in the files that I'll share with whoever's interested in seeing that, but I think that might potentially serve as a template for this. I think we just need to revisit the focus and see if the focus is the same as it
Yeah.
was, a year or two ago, whenever that went in. So I think we have something to potentially work with.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'll share that.
So should we try to get together like in a week or two?
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, and then you could even, bring it to the select board for a quick update on what you're proposing and sort of take their temperature, on that. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, the select board will have to weigh in and approve the funding. That has to be approved before you apply, basically.
Yeah,
So it has to be something that's palatable, right? But for these vulnerability assessments, at least the last couple of years, keeping in the 150 to 250 range seems to be more approvable by MVP than if you go for the bigger ones. In the beginning, people were asking for lots more and they were giving it. Now
Right.
there's so many more applicants, and so
Okay.
they just have, so I think that's kind of the order of magnitude. I think we're talking is 150 to 200K. But that still might be, might be a tough sell. I don't know. I don't think so. You're getting most of that grant funded, but I want to speak on behalf of the select board, of course.
they want to see some town, co-funding, you think?
Yeah, there's Snatch that goes
Okay.
along with that, yeah.
Okay, good. Well, I think it's
So
promising.
yeah, so a couple weeks.
Yeah,
Shoot, I'm supposed to be taking notes.
okay. Next on the agenda was a report on the municipal solar task force, which Gavin sent me today, and I'll share it on the screen. I can just mention what he said. It's been making tremendous strides in strategic planning, he said, to move us closer to 20 megawatts. They've outlined a couple of different approaches for addressing the issue during 1 year together. Short term, they have identified 2 potential solar projects. To get a warrant article submitted by the end of the year to help funding the project development. So I guess that would be funding for next spring's town meeting. And they're chosen based on solid output, low cost, feasibility, ground mounting, optimal location. And he's not talking about what they are. Okay, yeah, he does. So one of them would be at CCHS, which would be those guys' favorite project, right? Talking about it for ages. And the other one would be on the landfill where there's already a solar array, but they weren't at that time able to do parts of it because they were slanted and stuff like
That
that.
was on a slope. Yeah, the state wouldn't approve it because it was on a slope.
Right. So they think that both of these are reasonable projects. And they're working on a longer report for outlining steps to increase solar in other installations. And he says the goal is not to have this report shelved, but rather to let it provide actionable steps to make renewable energy system greener and more resilient. So Gavin, thank you in your absence.
You send that to me.
What?
Could you send that to me?
I will send it to you. I'm gonna send this whole thing.
Oh, okay, great.
And, Gavin's putting a lot of time, he's really, diving in on this, they meet every
Yes.
2 weeks or something, right? So. Now, just. We are a little bit behind, but, are there, what updates do we have from any other efforts going on? Metrics and reporting, you're getting some data together.
We are, let's see, we've made some progress and we've got some more to collect. I wanted to get with you and understand what other data you think that the assessor's office will provide, because what we asked for, they didn't give us all of that, so. But we can do that offline.
He's always given me whatever I ask.
That's fine, I
Yeah.
just don't know, like, you know, these were the items that we asked for, kind of what what was used in the previous
Okay.
footprint, so. There's more data we want to get.
Yeah, I put in there, so Brad sent me a more detailed list of data that we was hoping
Okay.
to get related to home heating.
Right,
Okay,
And so I forwarded that on
okay,
to the assessor's office and haven't heard back yet, but I'll
Okay.
let you know when I do. this.
probably get it,
Yeah.
put it in our folder, so. Yeah, so we're hoping to, I put a little schedule together, let's see if I can find that. You know, hoping to work on data collection yet this month. And then hopefully in December, we can start to kind of synthesize the data that we get. You know, there'll probably be some data gaps, so we'll try to fill those as best we can. And then, you know, hopefully by January, February, we'll have sort of a preliminary footprint that we can take a look at.
really,
Other than that, yeah.
right. I mean, when I was, my reaction on the limited data that they provided, and maybe that's what we asked for,
Yeah.
is it's really hard to look at data on just the oil houses without the data
Right.
on all the other houses. Now, it could be possible with the NIPC tool, and you only need that little bit of data, but because when I did the analysis, I had to look at the data as a fraction of the total housing stock. And the square footage of those houses compared to the housing stock and stuff like that, which was not
Okay.
included.
Yeah, so we'll have to see how that.
Is it possible they don't have the ability, not, you know, the manpower to get the data that you wanted?
Oh, no. It's just, I think it just makes a query and it dumps it out into CSVs.
Okay.
I just, yeah, I now they have the data recorded, so it's a matter of that.
Have you ever been to the assessor's office?
Not
It's like a
anything
really
else.
cute building,
Oh, I know
like.
where it is.
uh,
Very hard to get to the parking lot, it's like missing.
Okay, on residential engagement, we have not managed to meet to do stuff lately, although, I've been posting some events onto the Cooler Concord site, to just get people, you know, to participate in things. I think we still want to, you know, maybe as part of planning for a campaign to think more, in depth about getting the newsletter going and stuff like that, that we talked about, we never managed to do.
The newsletter, which newsletter is on that?
What?
You're talking about a newsletter.
Well, we have the, you know, for the Cooler Concord list or for greater community list. Beyond, you know, to try to reach people that are not, that we're not already talking to. You know, it could be through next door, it could be through other channels.
You know, that open meeting thing on, when you go to the Concord site, the town site, you know, they have for the, the new planning tool for next to the MBTA lines and all that sort of stuff. You know, they have a surface summary, so you can really get right to all the information there. I mean, I would think it'd be great if we could consolidate all the information, all reports, everything that's happening and sort of, you know, make it more easily accessible. And I don't,
Yeah,
who's doing their website and all that sort of stuff, but you go on their website and everything's right there. It's just wonderful, you know, that
for the MBTA.
for the MBTA overlay district stuff. I mean, it's just boom, it's all there. It just, you know, it's, the websites can be difficult to get access information, be wonderful. I mean, it's certainly a topic of concern for everybody here in town. And there's lots of different pieces, and maybe that's the problem, is there are too many pieces. You know, there's the
There
water
is-
piece and there's the flooding piece and the roads and transportation. And so maybe it's too much, but it'd
Yeah.
be great if people were interested, they could just hit boom and then it's all there.
Right. Maybe we can talk about, you know, what the biggest gaps are. I mean, we do have like a dashboard of greenhouse gases and stuff like that, but it's hidden away. It's not likely most people know about it. And we do, you know, it would be good to talk about what we could propose that would be useful.
Are you talking the town
I'm
website?
talking on the town website, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and then, municipal electrification, I don't know.
Yeah, so there started efforts to look at putting a scope of work together to do deep energy audits for municipal buildings. So started to make a little bit of progress there, but that's it's not on hold, but we've slowed a little bit because we don't currently have a facilities director for the town. That position is
Yeah.
vacant, and didn't want to necessarily charge ahead too quickly in the absence of that person, because I'm assuming that person is probably going to want to have eventually have some say or input in
Right.
you know, how we go about this with doing these, you know, these deep energy audits. They
Right.
may want to
You know,
be
this-
involved in that process. So I don't have a sense of the time frame of exactly when that hire is supposed to be taking place. I think they're working on it and hoping to have that soon. So continuing to do some homework in the meantime. You know, but I don't think we can necessarily fully charge ahead probably until, you know, we want to have that person, because we don't know that we want to be making decisions about, you know, if we want to use a energy services company versus not, you know, which can make some big differences in terms of how buildings are operated and function and systems and everything else. And, you know, I'm not an expert in that area. I'm sure that whoever's in that role would again, want to have some say and input in that
Right.
process. So anyway, we're trying to continue to move forward with that, with knowing that's slowing the process a little bit. As far as the schools go, I've had conversations with the school leadership about the feasibility study that was done at the Alcott School on replacing the boilers there. And have gotten agreement from the schools to move forward with reaching out to the consultants, Weston and Sampson, who did the feasibility study, to continue conversations with them to look at more detail at the heat pump, air to water heat pump option that they proposed as part of that feasibility study for the boiler replacement there at Alcott. So I've reached out to Weston and Sampson and working on setting up a meeting with them to get that conversation started, and then hopefully they can work with us to provide some more detailed information, maybe look more at the potentially a designer engineering study to go in more depth and really explore that as a potential option for Alcott, and then with the idea that could serve as a template potentially for the other elementary schools who are of a similar age and also have boilers that need to be replaced. So we're continuing to try to move that forward. I mean, the idea is there was $50,000 spent on that feasibility study. It shows some promising options as far as the pumps go. So we don't just want that to sit on the shelf. We want to keep that moving and move forward with it. So the schools are busy, so I kind of volunteered and said I would be, take the lead on that, and engaging the consultants to try to move forward, so.
Great. Do you know how soon that meeting might end up being?
I don't yet, because the contact at Weston Sampson is currently on vacation.
Okay.
So I think they're gonna be back maybe the end of next week, so hopefully I'll be able to hear from them at that point and try to set something up to get a conversation started.
Great, I think that's.
So they did a feasibility assessment just for Alcott. to look
Yes,
different
for
options.
replacing the existing gas
Different
boilers
alternatives. Okay.
at Alcott, and that study was done. I believe the report was dated March of this year, so it's probably done, the end of last year, the actual work was done.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're just trying to follow up on that, see if we can't, get some momentum behind that, and there's also the potential that. There'd be some money going into the capital budget, to help the schools with potentially moving forward with something like that. Maybe above and beyond their own standard capital budget.
Yeah.
So.
And did it include alternatives that you like from electrification standpoint or?
The feasibility study?
Yeah,
Yeah, so the one pathway that we're. Looking to pursue and want to dive deeper into is air to water heat pump hybrid system. So what was in the feasibility study was. Use air to water heat pumps to cover, most of the needs, and then they would install new boilers, but they would be a reduced size. However, the schools have been pushing back that they want full size, they want full redundancy, just in case something ever does go wrong with the heat pumps, but that's.
that makes sense.
That, anyway, that's
Sure, no.
part of the
no.
conversation, but
Right.
yeah, air to water heat pump hybrid system is the avenue that we're trying to pursue, because it looked like it was technically feasible, and it also looked like it was. Economically almost on par with just replacing the boilers with other gas boilers. It was very close in terms of cost,
Yeah.
so anyway.
Good. So next on the agenda, I wanted to talk about this campaign I've been thinking about. And I have it's in another document. I'll open it up. I'm gonna share this all with you. I sent it around to the committee. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at it. So this would be a campaign that I'd like us to consider doing next year. And basically, it's along the lines of what we did with the Heat Smart campaign a few years ago. And a previous campaign, which was the Green Your Heat campaign, a few years, a year or two before that, where there was a lot of outreach to, in that case, in that Green Your Heat, it was to oil heated homes, getting them to do energy audits and weatherization, and getting $1,000 rebates for weatherization, which we didn't have at the light plant at that time, but now they do because of that program. So, so doing a campaign like this could help a lot of people out, and it could have long-term benefits, like it helps our goals towards the climate action plan. Eric and I talked to Janice Setti at the light plant about it, and Jan is one of the most busy people that we know, but she's also very organized, and she was intrigued. But her first point of view is like, well, can your committee do that? Because if you guys can do that, maybe we could help. Yeah, but it totally understand. And I think of this as being bigger than the committee. That involves a bunch of us on the committee. It would involve a lot of Eric. It would involve other volunteers outside the committee. So I have on the screen are a few outcomes that I think would be nice. campaign could last a limited amount of time, so it's a lot of work over a few months. It targets a good number of homes to get energy audits and helping as many of people as possible doing whatever impactful steps after that, whether it's in their homes. And one of the problems is in this town, if you have oil heat, you get an energy audit. It's just not simple. You have to read this thing and then figure out who to call. And it's much harder than if you live in Mass Save Town and the energy auditor shows up and they tell you what to do and they give you a quote and they say, all you have to do is check the box and we'll come back and in a few weeks' time and we'll do the work and it will cost you nothing or almost nothing. It's much harder here if you don't have that. If you're gas here, you can get that Mass Save audit and all that nice stuff. So a good campaign would be easy for homeowners to click a box to get, click a button in order to sign up for an energy audit and then have the right amount of hand holding so that they know what to do. Or that they kind of know what the next step is and feel like they're motivated to take another step. The one thing that with Heat Smart, for example, we had selected contractors to do heat pump quotes. And you didn't have to use them. You could get a quote from, in that case, it was New England Ductless. You could get a quote from them, and then you could go get a quote from 2 other people and compare them, and then pick the best one. But that kind of thing, working with a contractor, involves having a selected contractor through a process, which is, you issue something called an RFP, request for proposals. Some companies that want to participate would respond to that, and then you would select ones that match your criteria, but that involves contracting, it involves some legal help and stuff like that, so it's not free and it's a bunch of work. But other communities do this, and we could do that as well, especially if we've got the funding to it. I was motivated by what other nearby towns have been doing in the last year, and described on the video. In Acton, they did a similar program where they targeted a couple of oil heated home neighborhoods that had no gas lines to them, and they got heat pump quotes for everybody and anybody who wanted to participate. Selected contractors would look at their houses and tell them what they could do. When you work on a neighborhood, you have not only it makes it easier for the contractors, still a lot of work for them, but it also lowers the barrier for people taking part because all their neighbors are doing it, eventually. Connecting homeowners to incentives, like the IRA is so complicated, nobody would figure it out on their own, but we could help them figure it out. One idea, I'm just going to talk for another few minutes, and then let's have some questions and thoughts and ideas from the committee. I had a great discussion with somebody yesterday about using house parties as a way of motivating people in their neighborhood. You just invite everybody over and serve them a little bit of cider and donuts, and you have a heat pump coach there, and you have a member of the committee there, and you talk about what you're trying to accomplish and why they might be interested, and it's a way to get to know your neighbor if you didn't ever go over to your neighbor's house, but also to feel like, yeah, we can do this. If you're doing it, I might think about doing it. There's a bunch of reasons why I like to focus on oil homes as a primary target, even though you get people from gas heated homes around also saying, yeah, I want to do that too. But oil got up to $5.90 a gallon last winter, which is the highest I think it's ever been. And it could get up that high again this winter. Who knows? Maybe it won't. But I think that's kind of a nasty thing for a homeowner to see, and especially when they get approached and they're asked by the oil company, would you like to pay ahead? And we have a really good price for you. Oil and propane both are pretty expensive. Those prices they kind of go along with one another. So comparing price for heating with air source heat pump, it's a little more than half of what it was for oil in terms of fuel cost. And that's just basically converting, the typical efficiency of an oil burner compared to a typical efficiency of a heat pump and prices. And I don't think anybody really likes oil in their home. Kind of stinks. There's some health effects, and so there's good reasons to want to get off it besides just climate. I did a little analysis in this map here of streets in an older assessment database, a few years older, and I want to compare it with the new. It may be hard to see on the screen, but there's little red streets marked here, which were more than 75% oil heated. And those are, for the most part, streets that there's no oil line on. And you can see whole neighborhoods like Canantum down here. There's no oil lines. I think there's there's no gas lines. I think there's a gas line up Garfield, but not through most of Canantum. And that's a neighborhood where, people know one another and they'd be receptive. Also over by White Pond, there's a bunch of places that don't have gas lines, I think. And a few others. There's you might choose to just focus on one neighborhood as a way to sort of hone the idea, the message, and get something going on a smaller scale, and then seeing if you get a community ambassador over on College Road or on one of these other places that doesn't have any gas, to say, oh yeah, we want to do that too. So yeah, my analysis of Canantum is that 128 homes were oil heated out of 162, which is pretty good, pretty high.
One of the rest heated was.
Some of them are listed as gas, and I think that means propane. Because they don't, in the assessor database, they don't distinguish between natural gas and propane, which is dumb. And then there are some others that are electrical heated. And I think in Canantum that means heat pumps. There have been streets in town that were electrical heated through electrical resistance. But there aren't that many of those. Because that's so expensive, people have tried pretty hard to figure out. I met one or two people, but not many. A bunch of other ideas of things that could happen. We could augment the energy audits people get with some sort of a home energy score, like Jake has thought about. Or do something like the Heat Smart Alliance has a little heat load calculator. So if you got people to okay that you can access their oil bills, you can tell them whether their home here is more or less efficient than all the homes in their neighborhood, or than the average house. And that can give you motivation to go one way or the other. If your home is, deeply flawed, you wanna fix the flaws first before you, electrify. And, you know, we could include some information, you know, if you're going door to door, or however you do the outreach, you could include solar assessment and information about induction cooking and, home resale value. I really want to involve students in this, if possible, and in fact, they have a spring internship program for seniors. You gonna do that?
Oh, no, I had classes actually.
Class, but some seniors do a couple month internship program where they work really hard and they have a good experience, learn a bunch of stuff. I could imagine using a couple students, if they could be managed, to do some, you know, either some outreach to homes, because students can have a really good message about why you want to care about the future. Or do some analysis, or do some social media, or do some, you know, what would, there's a lot of things that would go into the campaign. And the other things that are in here about, you know, I thought of a timeline, and personnel. So I would think most people in the committee would want to be involved at some level. Maybe it's in the planning stage, maybe it's doing some coaching, maybe it's you know, helping with some events. But I've spoken to a couple of people. One was in Mount Mothers Out Front, and who was like, yeah, that sounds like a really good program. That's the kind of thing we would want to be involved with. So if we get sort of town support and some idea on funding, I think we could get some volunteers to put in a bunch of hours. Let me stop here, because I've been talking too much. What's the reaction? This is a big project. But I think this, you know, it gets to like taking action on one of the big chunks on the climate action plan.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, it's climate action. You know, it's the name of the committee, action.
My first question that came to mind, you mentioned the other towns doing something similar. Do we have any sense of cost benefit, you know, like how they, just looking at your kind of estimate on, it's gonna be a significant chunk of effort that goes into it.
Yeah,
What sort of success did they get, you know, for Acton or Lexington? Sort of conversion rate, you know, or like, how did they measure success of these programs and
good question. And I don't have an answer right off the bat on those, but I can work on summarizing it. In Wayland, they did a Wayland Saves Energy campaign, which was using a particular energy auditor, getting people signed up. And I'm sure that the numbers are available. I don't know about the numbers. I mean, if you really wanted to do cost benefit, you should say how many volunteer hours went in.
Yeah.
And money.
And I don't know if we're gonna be able to get that, right? It's just, I do think it's worth. You know, it's worth us thinking about.
Yeah.
You know, it's gonna be a chunk of volunteer hours. I see, you know, you've got Eric down for leading it, and there's lots of different initiatives that are happening. So just, you know, we need to make sure that it will get us to the benefit rather than us just spending hours and not, you know, getting what we go out of it.
Right, at least the last thing you want to do is spend a lot of hours and have two houses.
Yeah,
But with Heat Smart, which really got me going with this stuff. and that was a free town thing. So it added a little bit of complexity, but not much, because in fact. The people with the expertise were mostly from the other towns. And we learned a lot of, and I still work with those guys. It was lots of hours. It was, I have a hard time remembering, but it was work every day. Not a whole day. It was probably a third time for me, during the campaign. And we got, we could quantify in terms of a number of homes that got heat pumps. I think there were 100 installations as part of that. So you could come up with a number on greenhouse gas emissions and savings and stuff and money saved and stuff. But there's also a lasting benefit.
Yeah.
Because that started everything that CMLP is currently doing. So there's kind of like this, hard to anticipate benefit. So I think that's really a good question in terms of what would be the payback?
Not exact, but, right, I mean, I don't think you need exact numbers, but, I don't know if it would be worth
Yeah,
talking to a couple of these other communities that have.
right.
Mark's, just like, what sort of success did you have, for the effort that you put in? Roughly.
And if we were a commercial firm, we'd do a little more market research. We would already
Yeah, I mean.
talk to some potential customers and say, well, is this interesting to you?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's another way to
but-
think about it, yeah.
Have any of the other towns done the block party route? I mean, I think it sounds
I
good.
think Acton did something like that, so I would get, I wanna see if I can get Fran Cummings or Jim Snyder Grant or actually one of the other people involved. To maybe, come and talk about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's, to do that will likely get people who, climate change is not on the top of their minds. And, it won't be preaching to the crowd. It's,
Right.
Preaching to the choir, I mean.
I think climate change is on most people's minds,
Right.
but then the question is like,
But then most people aren't really doing anything about it.
right,
And so getting a party together
right,
is, I think, is probably a good way of spurring action.
right, I do like the house party approach.
But you have to find the right house.
Right.
Because I mean, some of the neighborhoods you have on the map, they're quite small, but who do you know who lives on those streets who might be willing or interested?
Now I talked to Laura Davis about it. She's the real proponent of block parties, and she's like, I wanna have the first one. So I know that there's, would be at least one,
Mhm.
but,
And does she have oil where she is?
well, she wanted to do it like next week. She was
But does she have oil heat?
What?
Does she have oil heat?
No, she has, she's fully electric.
She's fully elected. But is the gas on where she lives?
No,
No, okay,
she's,
so she's in a good place.
yeah, she moved, she's moved in and electrified the home as kind of like their first step.
Mhm.
But. I also admit, to have a house party, you want to invite everybody.
Mhm.
And you might want a door-to-door effort to get people to the house party or something. You might wanna. I don't know if it's door-to-door, if it's hard to get people on the phone. It's hard to get people, period, you have to be creative, but.
Right, but you could put, notices on people's doors,
But signs, you can do all that stuff,
You can
yeah.
do stuff.
In Cambridge, this is part of some of the work that, my company does related to stormwater management. They go into neighborhoods and do kind of pop-up like events. So public, outreach events, but they go to the neighborhoods. So rather than, I think making everybody come to the high school or making everybody come to the library, what have you, they take it on the road, basically. And
Right.
they, have like demonstrations of how things work, boards that can kind of educate and if they give out flyers or what have you. But it might be something like that. So like if not that we have this grand list of all the block parties that happen in Concord, or if there are that many.
Yeah.
But if we could do it sort of, in a, say, some fashion like that, where we're going into different neighborhoods.
Yeah.
So maybe targeting, the neighborhoods you talked about. But in some way, kind of go to that. It's different in Concord, because we're not as pedestrian as Cambridge can be.
Right.
But I don't know, there might be some way to do it, some way to get inventive, or take it to different parks where the like soccer fields are, and just
Right.
set of soccer games going on, or I don't know. You tell me, Grace, where what areas would you take a pop up to that you could educate?
I
in
mean,
town?
I personally love the area around Thoreau School. It's just so walkable in that like West Concord area, like Cousins Field and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And also like places around the high school too, like but maybe like Emerson Field closer to town, so like if there's something going on in town, then it could be like closer to there. Like I also wanted to say that even if we can't do like internships and stuff, we definitely can campus. I know people that would be interested in getting, even
That's awesome.
if you did like a volunteer hours incentive for that, then
Yeah.
like, cause I know a bunch of people that need volunteer hours, and they'd be totally willing to do that.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
So I think, that idea is nice. I mean, I know that when they were trying to get information out to the White Pond community, that's what Joel did, is they picked a couple places around White Pond, put up tents, took out cookies and said, here, tell us what you think, and here's what we know. And it's a little bit easier, so people aren't going into other people's houses, and somebody doesn't have to actually, present, but there's, there's a little tent and a little table, and I think you don't have to invest as much. Have something like that. When I got my UConns, I actually went to these block parties. I happened to know the people and they invited me, but so now I think those work too, but it's, you're asking people to invest less if you can do it as a block event, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We could develop, some, what we call evergreen materials, so it's, it's sort of, stuff that would last us, a couple of years, maybe, develop this.
Okay.
Things don't change that quickly,
Right.
right? But, that we could use, you could just have your little kit, right, and you could just move it around. I mean, I don't know, we'd have to get inventive, what would catch people's attention, right? You wanna catch the attention.
Testimonials, I think, work very well.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
I don't know, but even putting something like that together would be quite an effort, even if you just did that,
Yeah.
to develop the materials and
Right, no, it would be.
set a plan and all of that.
But I think we have a lot of creativity here and could get some of those, and we can pare it back. The way I approach something like this is I throw everything there and the kitchen sink is in there and everything, and it makes sense to rein it in and say, let's not do that. Let's do this.
Well, or do a
This
piece of it,
first,
right?
yeah.
Do a piece of it.
Yeah.
But I like, Janet said, it is the essence of climate action, and, that's what we're about.
Thing is, moving sort of to the indoor season now,
Yeah.
so for a pop-up event, we'd like to start that in the spring.
Yeah, true.
Well, so it is a question, because it takes a while to get ready.
But we prepare for it.
Yeah.
Right.
But I see like a White Pond and soccer games, baseball games.
Yeah.
Pretty good baseball games, pretty good board at baseball games.
We need to find, we need to do something, right? Go look at the tape.
Well, you do now, you want focus.
Hmm.
So you don't want to like be on the side of the soccer game. Because you can't really. You want to have a little talk. And drink the Kool-Aid. The
Well, maybe, but maybe like Grace said, if you went to like a sporting event, maybe it's something where we could, get some students to come out that care about it, and they could kind of do some of the, to draw people in, right?
right,
I mean, we could too, but students are probably better than that,
Going to students is actually quite good, because they go tell their parents.
yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
I think probably most families
Absolutely
want their
true,
kids in school,
yeah, no, absolutely true.
and they should point out they do like volunteer work to
Yeah.
That's right.
organize the students.
I mean, we could have one at the high school, right? We could do a couple at the high school as a
yeah,
starting point, right?
absolutely.
Kind of sponsored by maybe, your groups or something like that. So,
I know green team would be interested in that team. Oh, and also I thought like the cooler Concord fair, like I thought that was a really cool way to bring like fun and like, I know it's like originally one of the ways that I got inspired to do sunrise and like get involved with this sort of stuff, but like if we
Yeah.
did one centered around the heat pumps and like the energy audits and all of that and like teaching people how.
Yeah,
I think
Yeah.
that might be an interesting way to.
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, another source of student labor is Mass DEC Clean Energy Internship Program. Which our nonprofit uses for getting people to do programming and communication. Or CSTEC had a couple of interns the summer after the Cooler Concord Fair. And one of them worked on planning the lawnmower swap. Does anybody remember the lawnmower swap?
Yeah, I remember it.
Pictures of that.
Okay.
This was, we invented, with the Cooler Concord Fair, we kind of took the temperature on various things, and lots of people signed up that said, I'd love to get rid of my lawnmower in favor of an electric mower.
Oh, cool.
And there were enough of those that we said, oh, that's something that we could talk Chris Whalen into helping to fund. And we got, a vendor, Home Depot, to bring a bunch of lawnmowers up and swap them, and then we dumped, 100 lawnmowers into a dumpster. And it was super fun. I don't think we saved too many greenhouse gases, but we certainly made for a quieter neighborhood.
Yeah. They're so quiet.
But an intern was pretty helpful there, because he really worked on it. And, of course, he had to be managed, and we managed that sometimes. So where to go with this? I think we need, I think we need to approach like town manager and say, this is something we're thinking of doing. And get some support, even if it's just emotional support, but if it would involve some funding, that would be nice. I don't have really a budget, but I think I think it's not. For Heat Smart, the Heat Smart program, most of the grant was in-kind support from, there was a consultant we could ask questions to. Which I don't think we really need here. They helped us with the vendor selection. That's probably one of the biggest parts of it.
No, there was a website. We had a website
And
for the heat swap program.
there was a website as well.
Yeah.
And they set it up and ran
Mhm.
it. I don't think the website would cost us anything, because The other thing I'm working on in my day job is a campaign tool on the Mass Energize platform that we subscribe to. So we could get that together for not a tremendous amount I've heard. But you're right, putting a website together can be expensive. We had a total budget of 6,000 for promotion. Which was lawn signs and Facebook ads and I think we put stickers on the Concord Journal. Promotion generally costs some money. But it's not huge.
Why can't CMLP help with this?
Well, they can.
I mean,
Dollar wise, should they do
and
that?
also in terms of, dollar-wise also, like, they could run the pop-ups, they could.
Right,
I mean, they could have their staff do it, you know, because
right.
they're so, they know the most about it.
This is supporting CMLP's
Right.
effort. So in principle, that is potential source of funds.
Yeah.
One of the issues with CMLP, and we heard about it when we talked to Jan, is the energy efficiency group is Jan and Pamela. And Jan is working nights and weekends, as well as days. And Pamela is behind by weeks in terms of processing what she needs to do. So they actually need to hire somebody. They don't have a deep staff. And they're, you know, I'd love to support them hiring them, you know, that extra help, because then they could help out really.
So we talked about this before, why can't we sort of recommend that, I mean, as a committee? And support something like that, I mean, why can't we do that, say, here's all the stuff, they've got the expertise, and I mean, why is that not
I think you're right.
part of our?
You're right. This is a little bit of a bottleneck to stuff. I wasn't thinking in those terms, but you're right.
Could we go to CMLP and ask them how it would be most helpful? Like in terms of these pop-ups or, you know, school or whatever it may.
Right.
They must have some thoughts about what's an effective strategy.
They have a lot of thoughts about it.
And we should obviously be very closely coordinated with them.
Right. The one bit of news about CMLP is that, so they have had this coaching program, they kind of invented the coaching program first. Town in Massachusetts, I think, that had heat pump coaches. That worked and were paid for by Abode Energy Management. And I think they're going to be internalizing that, they're gonna be changing that. I don't know that that's gonna affect this, but basically this is trying to dovetail with the program that they have. And get more people to use it and stuff. So you're right. I think we need to make an ask there. Any other thoughts before we close this out, because we're running a little short of time.
I'm still waking.
started
I'm
with-
still on
We
the.
started late.
Well, I usually wake at 4:30, so now it's 3:30, right? Daylight savings time, so getting late for me, folks.
So again, you know, we're gonna, the Earth's average temperature is gonna go past 1.5 degree increase around 2030, no matter what we do in terms of emissions.
Right.
So it's pretty urgent that we do more to control greenhouse gases. But since we can't avoid going through the 1.5 increase in the next decade or so, you need more work on adaptation. So we need a larger sense of urgency.
Yeah,
How do we get that across? I mean, is it like an article in the newspaper? Is it
well, it's gonna be the warning plus the good news about, it has to be motivating and more, and alerting at the same time, I suppose. And maybe it's what Cheryl was saying, just something central on the webpage that says, hey, folks, this is your portal for finding out what's happening, and
What webpage is it? Our webpage?
our town
It sounds like, yeah. I mean,
it's not just a Concord problem, of course, but
you can put the IPCC, summary for policymakers on it, which is very readable, and, it's quite scary.
it's readable for you and me.
No, it's readable for, the policymaker one, it's really readable. And it's very clear.
Yeah.
And, so, anyway, I'm saying, what can we do to increase the sense of urgency? I mean, the state is, just released their climate action plan.
Yeah,
The state last year released their assessment. There's plenty of information out there. Climate change is gonna impact everything we do. Everything we like, it's gonna be impacted negatively by climate change.
did you say this at the end of the evening?
What?
Did you say this right before I go to?
No, I'm saying, no, I'm sorry.
No, I know, but.
At the end of the agenda, you said comments about.
No.
Well, I might just suggest related to that, I mean, I think one of the things that we're seeing now, and we saw, just recently here in Concord, are these more intense climate driven events,
Right.
heavy precipitation, flooding, things like that, and people are,
Extreme heat.
yeah, I think people are starting to notice that more, starting to pay attention to that more, and I think I was gonna say capitalizing on that, that's probably not a good term, but, just being positioned that as these events happen, that we can, remind people why these are happening and that there's, a need to address these kind of things. And I think it goes back to, the upcoming water resources meeting,
Right.
and the town and Public Works trying to make an argument for the development of a stormwater utility. And so that's like an example of trying to be adaptive, investing in things like a stormwater utility and having the funds that you need to be able to address stormwater issues and precipitation events and preparing for that and making the connection there where it's not just this abstract concept of saying, well, do you remember that twice in August we had 100-year events with flooding, and that's going to become more the norm. So how do we piece all these things together and just, reminding folks that, it's becoming less abstract and more concrete in terms of climate impact. So just being positioned to point that out, if you will, as these things happen.
And how do we point that out? Like a creator of the paper?
They need to be able to connect the dots with the climate impacts, but I think they also need to see a lawn sign in every street that says this home is gone green. And say, oh. Yeah,
But
I can be part of the solution. I
can
mean,
they have those
no, no,
making things where they show how much money they made, how many houses have gone electric, how many houses are using solar panels, something for those big things, you see them in. In front of the library, how much money has been raised by the library, right?
Right.
So if we had something in the West Concord or, West Concord and Concord showing how many houses have been electrified, how many using solar,
We
you can
could,
actually visually see.
we could
Feel a
connect
little
those
guilt.
numbers.
So one of the things that related to that we'll be working on, especially as we're updating greenhouse gas inventory and getting a better sense of where we are, is there is the dashboard that we have online, which is intended to track our progress in relation to our climate action plan. At the moment, that's a little bit outdated. I'm going in there now to sort of, update some of those, the status of a number of those different tasks. But there's also the opportunity in the current dashboard to have, graphics and visuals that can highlight some of that. So I think as we get prepared to have new data, we can update that and see,
Right.
and hopefully direct people more and more to that, and ultimately look at that and just determine whether our current dashboard meets our needs or whether we need to consider something else. But I think there's some existing tools that I think might be able to help address it.
But I do wonder if wrapping what, like, maybe it's we won't be able to do it all at once, but in our update, doing some updates, pulling in some of what Paul's talking about, just, to try to, and I don't know what form that takes, but trying to drive, this sense of urgency.
Maybe in our annual report, we put something,
Yeah,
and also, I mean, I suppose we could write, I suppose we or I.
I think
write
there's
out
always
for the day. I don't here to find the damn time, but, no, but the information's out there, and it's highly credible.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I'm thinking is, even if they're very succinct thing that maybe, it's not long enough for the paper, but if we could put something like that on our website with some links to some of these very accessible, in their words anyway, reports, I think,
I mean, even the state, climate. This is, it's really readable, it's just a lot of graphics, a lot of pictures,
yeah, sure.
and it's,
right,
a lot of amazing data.
yeah,
So we're in the website, we're in the town's website with this go under,
Yeah.
I don't know.
We need to get our little blob in there.
Where would you put it there?
Well, I mean, there's this sustainability section of the website. I can't argue that it's sort of the best organized in terms of information, as much of the town website probably is not either, but so I think there's potential for improvement there in terms of an interface.
well, so we want.
With this information, I mean, the challenges with sustainability goes in so many different directions and touches on so many different areas that it makes it a little bit challenging to sort of succinctly paint that picture, but I think there's work that could be done with the current website and where information is to make it more clear. It's pretty text heavy right now.
Yeah,
Most all of the town website is.
Yeah, so I think there's
That,
room for improvement there.
right,
But it would take budget, right? I mean.
Yeah, it'll take some time, and then depending on what, some budget, depending on what tools we need or need to do.
I guess we need to create a brainstorm on that.
Yeah.
And it's not, so people wanna be reminded, and they are reminded, if they're not paying attention, they're just listening to Fox or something, but they need to see numbers of what people are doing. But I think they also need to see, oh, there's one over there, look, there's another feet, and like, these people are all smiling. They need to see like the anecdotal stuff happening.
But I think it's motivation.
Yeah,
That's what Paul's talking about. It's like, kind of connecting the dots and helping them see. But then I think what you're talking about is like, well, can I do anything, right? Because I think some of that feels overwhelming and you think, oh, well, if it's going to get there anyway, what does it do? And I think connecting the dots
right,
between action and impact.
yeah,
I'm just thinking that, FMLP made those little decals that go on the backs of cars, Concord drives electric.
Yeah.
You could have similar things saying, my house is solar panel.
Yeah.
I have heat pumps, I mean, you could.
or you can have bumper stickers that you put on other people's cars that says, ask me about my carbon.
But even in their monthly or whatever their monthly things, it would be interesting if they could find out ways of comparing the costs for people with heat pumps and solar panels versus people who are using oil and gas. If they could show that in their monthly.
Yeah,
I mean, then you could see, because they're showing you, you've used less this month or more this month. I mean, if they could show a bigger comparison, people could actually see it each month. I mean, people are looking at their own houses, but it'd be great for them to see.
yeah,
I know that
Things on cars go in different places. If you live on a dead end street, you put something up outside your house saying that you've done this, that, and the other, very few people will see it, apart from your immediate neighbors.
right. Yes, we got to keep thinking. But I also think we should, finish the meeting.
Yes.
I think that's.
But I want
I make a motion to
to,
adjourn.
any of the visitors, including Lois
Okay.
Suarez, who's out there, must have to be very patient, whether you have anything you wanted to say.
Well, just listening to you about the solar panels over on, like near Route 2 there. If they're going to be redone, is there some consideration to possibly putting native plants along to attract native pollinators? And that's something that's being done some places in the state, and
Yeah.
apparently there's some small benefit per kilowatt hour. Not sure I know of the whole, requirements for, they have some sort of silver certification or something too. Or I don't know all the pieces, but it does sound like a possibility of
Yeah,
just
So
at
you're
least
saying-
looking at that as a place to put in, like, I guess some of the people have used shade plants and some shade pollinator plants, and some places they've used like a meadow that seems to be adjacent to the panels. It's something new for me. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm here just as a citizen, and I just was curious because I don't have a conflict tonight with your
Right.
meeting, which usually I have a Tuesday conflict. So I
maybe you
just
can
was,
find a report written from someone who's done that. If you find a good source.
It was on NPR
Yeah.
this morning. It's on NPR this morning. but it's on-
No, I mean, I am-
It came
I'm
up
not-
at the.
like I said, I'm here as a citizen. I'm on the Pollinator Health Advisory Committee. So, we basically look for things where we can work together, partner with people to be aware of things and possibly do some things.
Great.
So,
Well, thanks for being here.
yeah, well, thanks. It was interesting. There's lots going on, and I also live at Everett Gardens, so there's been some movement there in terms of looking at more efficient heating, but it seems like it's incredibly slow and it's been bumpy. So, but
Where was that you were saying?
I live at Everett Gardens.
Everett, yeah.
Concord Housing Authority. And there's been, I think I've mentioned to you before, there's been some bumpy roads in terms of
Yeah.
looking at more efficiency. I mean, they have moved, make some movement, and some of it has to do with where their funding can come from in reimbursements. But they're, slowly moving, and there is possibility of doing, they have one set of building, it's like a double building that does have heat pumps. They did leave in those buildings have electric heat. They did leave in electric heat. They were, they wanted, I'm not sure exactly what agency they're working with, but they wanted to pull the electric heat out. They were very glad they did because they've had some times when it's cold and apparently windy, when the heat pumps didn't really do all the, didn't give them all the heat that they needed. And you're dealing with, most of the people here are elderly or disabled, and having a cold building is not comfortable.
Yeah, this is something we as a committee haven't, that's a challenging problem.
Yeah,
It would be good for us to get a strategy about when we can, put some attention to that. But thank you again.
yeah, just, that's my thoughts, and I probably thank you for everyone for doing so much good for this area of climate change. I probably have conflicts again for a long time, so thank you.
Okay,
Bye.
bye-bye. Anything more from the student peanut gallery?
I don't think so.
I'm glad you were here. I hope it was
Didn't
interesting.
know what it was.
Okay, so, let's adjourn this meeting.
Yes.
And, because we're gonna meet again in 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
Way past my bedtime.